We're going to AHR, everybody. Got my rolly bag, got my water, got my badge, got my mask, got my ridiculous Vegas hotel room. Let's do this. Of course, I'm testing, because you know I love testing. When you are testing, you could be testing things that you don't understand very well, like this. This is an EMF tester, electromagnetic field. I can use this and I can get really interesting readings. This is not a great test because there is no standard and it's widely misunderstood. There's like no consensus on what this test means. So I'm not going to be using that. What is a lot more pertinent to this conference is this. This is a carbon dioxide monitor, along with temperature and humidity. We can see that it's 72.27 degrees. We got 19% relative humidity. It's pretty dry in here. Carbon dioxide, 1,000. And you can use all kinds of different tools to find the metrics that you're looking for. But what you really want to do is do a baseline. Oh, I'm going to keep this running and I'm going to show you what the curve looks like when I go back to my hotel tonight, which is not very well ventilated. In here we got ceilings that are like, I don't know, 40 feet. We got a lot of people, but we also have a lot of fans, and it seems like they're taking care on the, ventilating the space, because we know we got a lot of people not wearing masks in here. I'm putting mine back on as soon as I'm done with this video. At the Broan NuTone booth, there are a lot of interesting things to do with controlling the most important ventilation stuff, like kitchens. Obviously, we got bathrooms, which I'll talk about in another time, and also the whole home fresh air systems for super tight homes like mine.
So Overture is a series of smart controls, wall plugs, and wall monitors, room sensors that sense for total VOCs, humidity, temperature, air pollutants in your home, right? When one of these sensors senses for a pollution in that home and senses a rise in that, it will trigger a connected bath fan or range hood to exhaust out the pollution, and then at the same time trigger your fresh air system to draw fresh air into the home. And so you're getting this great balanced ventilation, exhausting out this bad stuff, bringing in fresh air, and it's always on. You don't have to do anything with it. There's an app that comes with it that shows you historical records. You can set the system up to acclimate to ASHRAE 62.2, so you're always meeting codes and standards, and it's very easy to use for the homeowner.
There's another really interesting control innovation here that's called Virtuo. Dave, can you explain what Virtuo does?
Absolutely. So Virtuo Air technology is an AI technology that we have built into our top-of-the-line ERV and HRVs. What it basically does is it takes the need to do physical balancing and adjusting of the dampers in order to control airflow. It takes that away and puts it all into this little box here. So it's just a series of buttons. With a series of button clicks, you're auto balancing the unit upon install, and then throughout the life of the product, it will check static pressure every 2 seconds, and if it notices a difference that's outside of the CFM level that were preset, it will ramp the motors up and down rather than turning baffles to control the airflow.
We have more test tools that no one has seen before. Ben from RetroTech has a new toy.
The new DM32X, I just stole this from the lab. Bluetooth and USB-C charging, and just a whole lot of cool features and stuff.
Data logging, and it's got stereo speakers in it, so that you can watch video tutorials on how to use the device. Like, that's pretty helpful. The first blower door test I ever ran, inside I was dying because I was like, I don't understand what's going on. So having little videos would be nice. And there's all kinds of new innovations trying to make ERVs more affordable for more people, because of course homes are getting tighter. Tight homes must have an ERV period, no bath fans anymore. Keep tuned into our channel if you want to know more about that. But here we are, Renewair. Let's check out what they got.
While we do have some new products that we're going to be introducing with high efficiency fans, something that's critical is not so much on the product itself, but how we use the product. And in light of everything that we've experienced in the last 24 to 36 months with COVID and the variants, and the most important thing for us to learn is what is the amount of ventilation that we need? And more importantly, should we be considering increased ventilation? Because when we look at standard 62.2, which I'm a voting member on, it is the minimum code requirements that are needed by contractors and of course builders. But nothing says we can't go above that. And there's so much interest in looking at high performing homes. So when we take a look at minimum ventilation requirements, we had an infected person, we have a certain level of concentration of the virus within a space. After 60 minutes, that concentration within the space goes up. So when we look at potential infection rates, there are two considerations: concentration and exposure over time, which means you have to have a high enough concentration and you have to be exposed to it at a long enough duration in order to catch it. If some people feel like, oh, I haven't caught COVID since the entire time, but you've certainly been exposed to it. But either the concentration wasn't high enough or you haven't been there long enough. So when we look at increased ventilation, lowers the concentration within the space. So when we take a look at the new products that we have today, the new products incorporate two additional features. Feature number one is EC fan technology, because today we need minimum 1.2 CFM per watt, and we're exceeding that with our products up at around 1.8 CFM per watt. So we are best in class. We are looking at onboard MERV 13 filtration, which is going to be very critical when we're improving the indoor air quality and we're controlling PM 2.5. This particular unit does not have the MERV 13 filter, but it is available.
It's an upgrade. What is this one, a MERV?
It's like a
6?
MERV 8.
So I want to point out also that Renew Air doesn't even bother making an HRV core. HRV core is made of metal, ERV core is made of paper, or some kind of a composite. What is it?
It's a polymer. So
Polymer.
you've got a solid matrix, and then you've got a coating, and that coating is similar to a fuel cell, which allows the transfer of the hydrogen molecule for moisture transfer between the two sides.
Nice. So here's the thing. People typically like HRVs over ERVs when they don't know better, and I'm always saying ERV is better. Watch, I'm linking a video on the screen right now about that. But now, because metal has gotten so expensive, HRVs can be more expensive than ERVs at this point. So really there's no reason. The only reason to get an HRV has now gone away. So I just think that's pretty interesting. There is a lot of chemistry being promoted at this show. It is very disturbing. And if I have to look at one more UV light in somebody's display, I'm gonna shoot myself. But there's none of that at the Aprilaire booth, because these guys understand that it's all about the filtration, the fans, the dehumidifiers, the humidifiers. I'm actually presenting in a few minutes over here about the crafting of modular ventilation systems that I've been doing with my clients over the last 2 years. And now that I'm done with the house, I can start to do that again more, which is very exciting. So I will post that as a separate video on YouTube, by the way, so you can stay tuned for that. It's like a 20-30 minute crash course with about 8 different case studies in it. It's kind of a roller coaster. We're not at their booth, but I just ran into Energy Conservatory, Steve and Chris. Very exciting. They are also helping to make season 3 of Home Diagnosis a reality. You guys, blower doors,
Yep.
duct tightness, that's historically been it, but you got 2 really exciting new things going on that I think is going to impact all the HVAC pros that are at the show. Can you talk about those a little bit?
Yeah.
Digital true flow, total system airflow. Airflow's first. It's very important. Airflow before refrigerant charge. That's the message we're going to be pushing.
What? Well, yeah, I can't just use a manifold to do that.
Cannot do that. Steve will tell you about the DG8.
So the DG8 is our new precision micromanometer that's reducing the price to get into doing all the things you need to have a micromanometer for. Room pressurization, CAS testing, if you're into radon, sub-slab depressurization. All these things are things that you can measure and should measure with a precision micromanometer.
And for those of you who are like, but I already have a manometer in my kit, it's I'm not going to name any of these brands that are like right here, but it's not the same thing.
No, not the same thing. Just look at the specifications. You can calculate if something is measuring, 0.5% or 1% of full scale, what is that going to get you in terms of accuracy if you're trying to measure 3 Pascal room pressurization? It's going to be like plus or minus 100%. It's a random number generator, not a manometer at that point.
At the Mitsubishi booth, we have a ceiling cassette. By the way, for all of you who have seen our struggles with wall mount cassettes and the cleaning and maintenance that's required by those, these have a little less because they're built in a different way. So the blower wheel and the filters and the coil don't interact in quite the same way. It's very interesting. Also, Mitsubishi is getting into the ventilation game. They've got some ERVs that they're rolling out. Wall mounted. That's kind of interesting for smaller spaces. Literally just had a client yesterday who was like, where am I supposed to put this ERV system? And here we are at the Hobo by Onset booth where this comes from. So this is the ventilation that I've been tracking in the conference hall here, also in my hotel room. I've been tracking stuff for the last 24 hours. Paul is going to help give us the rundown on that. Paul, thank you for being part of the story.
It's fun to be part of this.
Data loggers are things that measure stuff, and then they keep track of it so you can download the graph later. We're going to see the graph in a minute. These are all USB download. These are all Bluetooth download, like this 1102 that monitors the carbon dioxide. So let's go ahead and take a look. By the way, you're going to see a lot more of these sensors and instrumentation because I've got a whole kit that I'm very excited to show you. So, Paul, what are we looking at right here?
Yeah, this is data we just offloaded a few minutes ago, showing the last 24 hours. So the top channel is the temperature over that time. The next channel is the humidity over that time. And then this black line is the carbon dioxide with some interesting things going on.
Yes. So one of the things that's like a problem here is this spike, this peak. That's obviously an error. And what actually happened right there is I stuck this thing in the closed pocket of my backpack, my rolling bag that I've been keeping this on. So that, for some reason, did something. We don't know what. We were also on a bus at that point, so like I have no idea if it was close to an exhaust or whatever.
I can see some other things happen. The humidity and the temperature went up there
They
as well.
also, yeah.
The humidity can cause false CO2 readings.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so high humidity.
Okay, cool. And so also, you can see here when I first kicked it on, we came back inside from outside, and you can see that the temperature fluctuates between 72 and 74, but then I went outside here for a walk to our dinner. And so this is outside. You can see the relative humidity goes up as the temperature comes down. That's normal. That happens all the time. Carbon dioxide gets much better when I step outside. Convention hall yesterday was always less than 1,000. As far as COVID goes, because everybody's wearing a mask, I just wanted to kind of test whether they were seriously ventilating, because they did say like, oh, we're ventilating this convention hall really well. And there's a way to tell is to test. And so it looks like they actually are ventilating pretty well for the thousands of people that are in this space. Outside, hardly any carbon dioxide, 400 to 500 is generally what you can see. And then outside. But then here, I went to sleep right there. You can see it kind of goes up. That's me in my hotel, but sleeping with the window open. And I'm on the top floor, and so it was like a little bit weird with that. But you can see window open. And then right here, I closed the window. And you can see that the hotel starts to give me more carbon dioxide. I end up somewhere around, what is that? 1,200. Higher in the hotel than it was in the convention center with thousands and thousands of people. Be careful. And then I took a shower right here. You can see the relative humidity spike right in there because the exhaust system doesn't work. So we found out so many things with just this one instrument. It's amazing. Thank you very much for downloading this info so you can see it on the big screen, Paul.
Yeah, that's fascinating to see.
So that is the show. I hope that you've enjoyed this. I hope that you come here sometime. I haven't even been to any of the educational sessions. There's too much to see here on the show floor. That also obviously would be very interesting. If you're in the profession, you should definitely consider coming here. Make sure you comment. You have other things to add about what you saw at this show this year. Like and subscribe. Tune in next time.